Hi, my name's Will Jennings, and I am retiring this semester. It's my last year teaching at the University of Iowa. I've been a lecturer here since 2001 in the rhetoric department, and I have taught here as a TA since 1993 when I came back to finish my MFA in nonfiction writing and my BA in English and cultural anthropology, both of which I have from the University of Iowa. I came here in the middle of the winter of 1975 as an undergraduate and took classes in the undergraduate poetry workshop from famous writers, and I thought, this was such an incredible opportunity for someone at a state university to get to be taught by poets who would go on to become the poet laureate of the United States. And let alone to be able to play softball with them on Saturdays at Happy Hollow Park. How fun is that? And I dropped out and I worked in the natural foods industry by helping to start Blooming Prairie Cooperative Wholesale Warehouse that was based on food for people, not for profit, to get food to people whose stores didn't offer the sort of dietary needs that they had or wanted. And I've always been active in a lot of social justice movements and things of that nature. In the time that I've been here, both as a student and as a member of the faculty, I've also been a member of the Iowa City community. So I've served on various boards and commissions, the Board of Adjustment for the City of Iowa City, a quasi-judicial board that I was appointed to, and the Stepping Up Committee that was dealing with drinking problems that we had and still do to some extent. So I've been involved in a lot of different ways. I think that the way I'd want to frame what I want to say about the university is this, that all administrations and all universities, especially state universities, have faced demographic challenges in their student population repeatedly. The first perhaps being that of the GI Bill, when millions of first-generation college students who had no pretense or no idea that they would ever go to college ended up in college classrooms. So especially at state universities, which I want to make clear have a different mission than private colleges and schools, a very distinctly different mission. And that is to serve. And so curriculum changed. The way we taught classes changed. The rhetoric program began as a way to combine critical reading, critical writing, and critical speaking, right, into one series of classes to provide equity to groups of students who came from all sorts of different backgrounds. Now, admittedly, most of them were white, right? And we were not that diverse. So by the time that the 60s rolls around and the children of those students were ready to go to college, their dissatisfaction and the culture of youth that was taking over this country with the baby boom, of which I was on the tail end, proudly, began to demand and get active about things and reject the sort of systemic, stay quiet, get a job, do your part, because they began to look around at the world and said, we're surrounded by nuclear weapons and the prospect of instant global destruction at any moment, right? Instead of tornado drills and active shooter drills, we had thermonuclear bomb drills. Climb under your wooden desk, right? That would do a lot. So the absurdity of that led to all sorts of active movements on campus that combined with the then increasing activism of people of color demanding their civil rights, social justice for African Americans, for blacks, for Latinx, for farm workers, for migrants, and noticing the systemic racism and classism of our cities and our communities, along with the very unpopular war that many of us were subject to being drafted to go fight in Southeast Asia. So that demographic challenge presented a change in curriculum, and universities responded. The types of courses offered, cultural houses, policies and procedures involving giving students and acknowledging their greater rights and responsibilities to both the university and the community in which they live. In Iowa, what we saw in the 70s, we went from 18,000 enrollment roughly to where we are now, roughly in the 30,000 range, which is a huge jump. And one of the things the University of Iowa did was we said, let's have the private sector build our dorms for us in apartment buildings. So now 80% of our student body lives off campus. And the university has sort of conveniently faced the ongoing simmer down of the 60s and 70s with brief interruptions for anti-apartheid and other divestment movements. They've responded by outsourcing. And somehow during perhaps the Reagan administration and others, I'm not calling him out particularly, but this idea that the universities were to become your ticket to financial success. You had to go to college to get a good job. You had to get a good job to live the American dream. And this has slowly had an influence on shifting our curriculum to one that's less of the liberal arts, less of creative thinking, less of critical thinking, less creative problem solving, and more sort of certification. And so now, you know, we face a demographic change in a drop of students. A state university that is barely funded by its own state, right, is under great constraints of that state. And so students have become less students and viewed, and I don't mean this to sound as cynical as it does, as a revenue stream. So there are marketing ploys that have been used to encourage and recruit people to come. And that's changed what we teach and how we teach it. Things are being streamlined. Things are being discounted. The power and the necessity of the arts are being demeaned and abased, even while they are being triumphed in the brochures extolling the writer's workshop and all the wonderful things that happen here, creative things that happen here in all disciplines, you know, STEM, liberal arts and sciences across the university. But there's a problem. We're streamlining the liberal arts and we're debasing them in favor of certification. And tuition has become a barrier to people when it shouldn't be. And in the meantime, it's my thinking, and I'll say thinking, not opinion, that administrators have forgotten that before they were administrators, they were faculty. They have forgotten they are faculty. And so they have set themselves up in an adversarial position with faculty. And now some 60% of the courses taught at the University of Iowa and the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences are taught by instructional track faculty, not tenured. We have little job security. We have basic benefits for which we're very grateful, but there is no job stability. A colleague of mine died of cancer because he didn't have enough sick leave, and his colleagues were not allowed to share their sick leave to see him through the period to when he could collect disability. Another colleague is on the threshold of dying of cancer, and we can do little or nothing, and they were summarily dismissed by the university and only found out that they had lost their job when the IT person supporting our building called her and said, "You need to return your university computer because you don't work here anymore." And that was after their required life insurance policy that gets deducted out of our checks had passed 31 days. And so she was not able to contribute to it, so it lapsed. and now with stage 5 brain cancer and one heir, a son, she's lost that insurance through no fault of her own. The administration has forgotten they are faculty, and they've set up this adversarial role. And I've witnessed cruelty, and I've witnessed intended or unintended. In many cases, unintended. In some cases, very clearly intended. And I've witnessed things done sort of in the dead of night or over summer. And I've witnessed a clear disjunct and being told that as instructional track faculty, we only work 168 8-hour days per appointment year. And yet we're asked to fill out forms from the Board of Regents about how we spend a typical week, and we have to lie to keep those hours under 70. We're constantly being asked to be doing things when we're off the clock. We're now being told that what used to be teaching now falls under the guise of service. That's debasing what we do. And it's been exceptionally destructive to morale. So I'm leaving, I think, at a very good time. I'm fortunate that I'm able to retire and live a productive life and follow my curiosity and my research and my interests outside of this path. But I will miss my colleagues, and I'll miss my students, and I'll miss what the possibilities used to be for the University of Iowa for what appears to be the credentialing operation and marketing operation that it is rapidly becoming. And that saddens me to no end. It saddens me. And I wish people well. I don't leave with hard feelings or bitterness. But I believe the mission of the State University is to serve the good, the greater good of the people of this state, this region, this nation, and the world. And as we face the greatest existential threat of our time in global warming and climate change, why aren't we doing more? That's my question. The rhetorical question isn't a question with the expected answer. The rhetorical question is the question that has many answers, that should prompt meaningful, honest, curious, observed discussion that leads to meaningful action. I'll leave it there.